Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And we're just starting late because, good morning from Chris, Pitt, and Kat. Oh, nice. Because I did a lot of work yesterday, like physical stuff, and I just need a little time in the morning in the bathtub to recover my body. And I have a lot of decisions to make right now that are sort of weighing me down. So I am just on my own schedule. And I know when I was taking a class, a fellow Pisces was teaching it, and he said, I'm telling you when the times are, but as a Pisces, I got to tell you, my clock is not necessarily the same as yours. And I laughed because Pisces are famous for being late or being early, but never really on the dot. And it's kind of a remarkable thing that this guy pointed this out years ago. And remarkably, in his class and every class I've ever taught, we've always start perfectly on time, but it doesn't feel like it. You know, you feel like you're either rushing or that time is in a standstill, and then it just happens. So yeah, jacuzzi time, exactly. I have an indoor hot tub thing. It's a jetted tub, and I need that time in the tub in the morning. And I'm also kind of listening to some music because I've got to try to do some kind of recording of Tristan practicing his dog dancing for my group. And I'm pretty attached to one of these songs, so I was dreaming in the tub of some things he can do. Right, Tristan? I know. It's kind of fairy music, but it's not Celtic. Anyway, so today I got an amazing phone call the other day from my beloved Linda Tellington, who's been a good friend of mine for 30 years and a great teacher as well, and an inspiration on so many levels. And if you read my book, Dances of the Heart, you would see everything I have learned from Linda laid out with each animal in my life and the impact she's had on me and them and animals around me. So one of the things that came up in that conversation with Linda, we were talking about some points about my talk that I'm doing in the spring in February at the T-Touch Celebration, which is a huge international conference. And I'll be talking about the intersection of craniosacral therapy and Tellington T-Touch. So we were talking about that, but Linda just sort of paused and said, you know what, I am just I'm overwhelmed by the intelligence of animals. And boy, that just went right to my heart, because this happens to me every day too, either with my own dog, animals in the yard, animals that come to me for help. They are so much more brilliant than even an animal lover like my mother can appreciate. They are just remarkable beings that are so knowledgeable. And you know, in the world of animal behavior in high school, I wanted to be an animal behaviorist when Jane Goodall and David Misch were the only ones that anybody had ever heard of. And I'm so glad that that program was not developed yet and not available, because animal behavior really is looking kind of at Pavlov and Skinner, and you're just saying, if I give him a treat, he will do this thing. Or if I put a little lever in there, he will push on it like a rat in so many poor rat experiments and get the treat, and how much electric shock will make him not get the treat. Like, what is this? Would we do this to a child? Never. So why do we do things like that? To test animals and say they must not be intelligent or they must be intelligent based on these crazy studies. And thank God for Temple Grandin, who dispelled a lot of so-called scientific study myths by showing how they were poorly constructed. And if you look at it from the animal's viewpoint, which she's so great at doing, you can see that these tests were just not really fair. And you know, when you give children the same test we give animals, they fail miserably. So are we ready to say they're not intelligent? I think sometimes some moms may be willing to say that, but the fact is they're still learning, and our animals are in the same boat. And so Linda gave me this touching example of a hound dog that had been, you know, in a shelter, was a rescue, had not had care, had not had any kind of a life that most of my listeners would give their pets, and was kind of challenging to work with, standoffish. And in this experience she had with the dog, it bonded incredibly with a little boy who adopted the dog, or maybe he had already adopted the dog. I don't know the whole details because I was so overwhelmed by the rest of the story. But the dog bonded incredibly with this child and has been the perfect pet ever since. No accidents in the house, very politely asking to come in and go out, sleeping next to the kid every night, absolutely inseparable, learned his name in an instant. It's one of those experiences that so many of us have had where it's just meant to be. Like when you go to get your dog and he's been dropped off back at the shelter 3 times and he's the perfect dog for you, and 15 years later you can see how that happened and what a miracle he was there. I mean, this dog was the dog for this boy, and it was just a miracle. And there were so many things that he had done that Linda was using to show me how intelligent the dog was. As soon as you talk to them in whole sentences, give them clear pictures of what you're trying to say, they are all too happy to do what we would like them to do. And she did say that in extreme stress and trauma and abuse, we don't always see that in every animal. But even so, with a combination of all the work that I do, craniosacral and yeah, that I am Judy's sister, and I people say we look alike. So in the combination of craniosacral therapy and emotional release, even animals that I've seen who have had extreme abuse and neglect do come around and do become the perfect pet and beloved dog for the people who have them, or horse or cat or rabbit even. I have a friend now who rescued a rabbit in really just terrible condition, and the rabbit's very shy, and the person has spent 2 years and she didn't need to spend that long, but she wanted to go super slow because she would really cared about this bunny, just sitting with the rabbit, enjoying the rabbit, giving the rabbit toys, all the things that we do when we rescue a dog that's been through abuse. And the bond she has with this bunny is intense because she has established a deep level of trust. And certainly, if you've read my book, some of the first things that showed me the level of intelligence of animals were my rabbits. Nobody ever asked rabbits to do things dogs do, but I didn't know what else to do with a rabbit, and I wanted a dog. So I taught my rabbits to do what dogs do, the same way I was teaching a dog at home. And certainly my training techniques were not very brilliant, and that's maybe a good thing because I hadn't taken a lot of classes in training except for working with my horse, and I can't say that those were super helpful at that point. But I just told the rabbits what I wanted them to do and explained to them, I need you to learn to wear this leash so you can go outside and run around, and so I can catch you when you're outside running around. Of course, they could walk on a leash as well, but rabbits, like so many terriers we know, have their own agenda, and they might walk nicely on the leash for 20 feet, but then they've got something they got to do over there, and we're not going on the leash for a few minutes. So it was so nice to let them run free, but they just did everything I asked them to do. And that was a rabbit, and I come from a background where I had gone to pre-vet school, and rabbits were looked at the same way as lab mice and rats, and really unfairly stigmatized as being stupid. And rabbits are not stupid. No animal is stupid. All animals have this level of intelligence. And then there are the purists that say, well, they are intelligent in terms of instinct, or they are intelligent in terms of emotions. But who's to say that emotional intelligence is less than intellectual intelligence? Animals have incredible emotional intelligence, way past people. These animals who aren't even shaped like us are experts at reading our body language, our emotions, our facial expressions. I mean, it is really nothing short of a miracle how your horse knows how you're feeling the minute you walk in the barn, or how your dog knows what's going on with you the minute you walk in the door after a rough day at work, or how you're feeling when you're relaxing on the sofa in the evening and your dog comes into the room and says, you know what? I just want to go hang out with that person, and they jump up on the sofa next to you or sit quietly by you. And how do they know when you're sick? They know all of these things. They have wisdom and intelligence that far surpasses what normal functioning adults in our society generally have. Now, children often don't lose this intuitive connection until they're older, but sometimes they do when they're young. And so for them, it's not as odd. But, kids are exuberant. Sometimes they play kind of rough with animals, and so that does not enhance their bond. But just being who you are with your dog and appreciating the fact that they can really understand you is nothing short of miraculous. And they do have a level of intelligence that is far beyond what people give them credit for. I trained Tristan for one of his dog dancing routines, our Sherlock Holmes routine, to go, I had 3 cones at the end of the room, and they were the clues for, quote, solving the crime. So I taught him to go to the first one and knock it over, and the second one and knock it over, and the third one and knock it over by putting treats under there and asking him to get it. And then there were clues under there. First I had an eaten piece of cheese, and then I had a dead mouse, and then I had a cat, because the cat had killed the mouse. That was the crime. And then we handcuffed the cat, and that was the end of our dance. Anyway, so here I am. I haven't done that dance with him in 2 or 3 years. He's 8. And when I put the cones out to teach him how to go out and around the cones now, he initially, the first thing he did was go up to the cone and knock it over. We have not practiced this in 2 years. Like, he learned that. He knows that. He is able to recall that when a cone is there, especially where I placed it, that he's supposed to knock it over. And he's like, well, where's the mouse? Where's the cheese? I have a plastic cheese. Where's the kitty I'm supposed to pick up? It's a stuffed cat dog toy. So he clearly has that recognition. And now, after a couple of weeks of working with Karen's dog dancing, he knows that cones can be knocked over, cones can go around, cones can be moved. There's lots of stuff we can do with cones that's really fun. But that is just my personal example this week with my dog of how intelligent he is, to remember that. And he remembers cues I give him if I teach him wrong, just like with my Arabian horses. They're so smart. If you teach them wrong the first time, it is really hard to unteach them. And I have found Tristan is a little bit like an Arabian. Like, I have to be super careful, which makes me nervous and not a great teacher, when I'm teaching him how to do things, because he gets it. And then I do it wrong, and he doesn't understand what the heck I'm trying to ask him, because I'm not doing it the same way as he originally learned it. So animals just have this incredible intelligence, and many, many of us are aware of this, and often feel in a conversation with other people that don't have pets like you have to kind of hide, because they won't get it. They won't understand when you explain to them how smart your cat is. How does your cat know when you're sick and come to the bed? How does your cat know when your child is sick and come wake you up in the middle of the night? How does your parrot tell you that you have, a gas leak on your stove or something? I mean, these are things animals do all the time that are just amazing examples of their brilliance. And so our little message today is to recognize the intelligence of animals. They have so many qualities that we take for granted, or that we overlook, or that we don't understand. And I think if you haven't gotten a pack of my animal connection cards, which are 52 things you can do to connect with animals, some of those are how to look at your animal in a new way, because that ability to give them respect and understanding allows them to show us their brilliance. Yeah, our pets are very intelligent. That's right, Carol. They are. We are so darn lucky they want to live with us. That's what I have to say. And on the eve of this movie coming out about Alpha, it's a kid's movie. I haven't really looked at it much to talk about it, but it is about how the first dog, theoretically, bonded with the first human. And, how lucky are we that they decided that we were worth spending time with, because we aren't always very nice. And it's not always predictable sometimes how we are being nice or not. And certainly many people in your life have shown you that people are not always very nice, either globally or locally or in your own personal community. So it's a miracle that animals want to have anything to do with us at all. And, horses and cattle, they are so big. They have so many options about how to be with us. And yet, sadly, through some abusive training and things over their lives, they still cooperate with us. And what a joy. There's a couple of rescued corgis I see on Facebook, and they had terrible lives. And what a joy it is to see them now laying on a dog bed and having toys. Oh yeah, when your sugar was low, they started barking for your family. Yeah, actually, that is a very good point. They are now using dogs as diabetic detection dogs, and that is critical, because people who are diabetic, when their blood sugar is low, they have a cognitive loss. Their function is not very good. And you can even say to them, do you need some water? Do you need some sugar? And they'll say, no, no, no. But, hi, Mercy. Tristan, she loves you. You got a fan. Anyway, so the animal will recognize when your blood sugar is low. Your smell is very different. I actually have a super good sense of smell, and I can smell that same thing to a certain extent that dogs can. Of course, their smell is a million times better than mine, but there is a certain fragrance I have noticed on my diabetic clients over the years, and I can tell when they're having a problem, and your dog can too. And so the dog can alert you that you need to do something. And it's almost a little bit of training the person too to say, oh, my blood sugar's low, I need to go and get some juice. So, or whatever you have with you, you carry it with you. So that, dogs are doing that all the time. And the other thing interesting about service dogs is that they train themselves kind of to do what their person needs them to do. I mean, if you get one from an agency, for instance, that supplies service dogs to disabled veterans, they come with things like opening the door, picking up socks, blah, blah, blah. But every person who has a service dog like that can tell you 10 new things that dog has learned that helps that person in particular. And certainly my dogs have all taught each other how to detect seizures, first with my clients and then with me, sadly, from a head injury. So dogs just know a lot. Dogs know when your money is low. Well, you know what? They might, because when your finances are down, how is your emotional state? Stressed, nervous. You're changing your behavior in terms of going out shopping. You may be making foods that you don't really want to eat. There's a lot of things that change when your finances are low. So in fact, your dog could be service dog for alerting you that your money is low and you need to be careful. And have they looked at your checkbook? No, they just can see your behavior and respond. And yes, your niece has an emotional support dog. Certainly they're not the same as a service dog, but emotional support dogs, they have an even harder job in some ways than a service dog, because their job is to remain calm when a person is feeling anxiety and stress. And so since our animals feed off of our emotions so directly, if you're feeling stressed, like, maybe you don't like being in public and you have an emotional support pet for that, that animal's got to be like super chill in public to calm you down. And yeah, it is amazing how they can detect all of this. And they use all of their senses, their smelling, their taste, their hearing, their vision, their touch, in addition to what I call their spidey sense, that sixth sense, their connection with us. I know you were kidding, but it is true. I think dogs relax you when you're doing your taxes. You should have a dog with you because they lower your blood pressure. And so they can help you if you're having financial stress. And plenty of people who have had financial stress have said, I could not have gotten through it without my beloved spouse and my cat, because they only want and give love. They don't judge. And so when you are feeling any kind of stress in your life, your animals will help you through it. So they are brilliant. Animals have a level of intelligence that we are just too dumb to measure. And certainly there's the example of Clever Hans, this famous horse, who everyone thought he could do math, but then when they looked at it more closely, a horse, not a dog who lives with us, a horse could see subtle changes in the person's posture and breathing. And so he knew when he was tapping with his hoof at what point he should stop tapping to answer the math question. So I'm amazing. I don't know about that. But anyway, Clever Hans was definitely amazing. And, people poo-pooed it and said, oh, he's so dumb, he doesn't do math. But what that horse did learn was how to know when he had the right answer. And that speaks to us as students. Why do you do better in school when you have a good teacher? Because that teacher recognizes you individually when you are learning and accomplishing things. And when you have a mean teacher, like my calculus teacher, who threw chalk at us and yelled at us and called us stupid names, and oh my God, he had so many jokes about how stupid we were. Do I know calculus? No. I can't tell you hardly anything I learned that year because he was so mean. So having someone who is understanding helps you learn. And how many people in the history of training animals has been understanding? When you read this wonderful book, Bones Would Rain from the Sky by Suzanne Clothier, you will see examples in her book of things that were considered standard dog training by famous trainers, including the monks of New Ski. How hard should you hit your dog? These are things that came to us in past generations of working with animals. And you can't learn when people are thinking, how hard am I going to have to hit you when you don't do this right? I mean, none of us can. Our children can't. Why would we think our dogs can? I mean, they are amazing. So it's been just, 20 years or so since we've had positive training. And now we're going to a step beyond positive training where we're really looking at animals as equals. Like, how can he understand what I want him to do? And not just do, saying good boy and giving him a treat when he does it right. Like, how can I help him? And that's why this dog dancing class is so interesting to me, because your body language, which they read, those subtle cues, is so important when you're doing it that way. Because so many people who are a professional trick trainer just stand there rigid and just say, do this, do this, do this. And yeah, they treat the dog and say, good dog. But is that helping that dog really learn? Is that fun? Not really. So that's why I like dog dancing, especially the way Karen does it. So look at your animals for signs of intelligence. There are so many things they do that are just brilliant. I have so many wild rabbits around me, which thrills me because I don't have pet rabbits anymore, and I don't think I'm ever going to. And they know me. They know that I'm not going to hurt them. They come and say hi when I'm standing there staring at the lawn saying, oh, I wish I could see a bunny today. They hop right out of the clover and look at me. And it's the same with crows. I had a crow fly in front of my car yesterday. I've got a couple of crows around here that have been my friends ever since I moved here. And I don't know what he was telling me. Maybe he was scaring away a snake so that I wouldn't see it when I came in the house. But there are messages, even from wild animals, every day. So look for the intelligence in your animal and all the animals that you meet, and really pay special attention to the animals that have issues, because those are the ones that are really just using everything they can think of to give us messages, and we need to learn how to hear them. So that's all we have to say today. Thank you everybody for listening. And I have endless hours to say on this topic, and not necessarily in an organized manner. And there's plenty of stuff about it in my book and in my cards, and in Suzanne's book. I mean, I have pages marked in there of ideas of topics. So thanks for joining us today. Animals are smart, aren't they, Biscuit? He said yes. I may be a small corgi, but my brain is large. So we'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a fabulous Wednesday, hump day. We're closer to the weekend. And I'm doing a little T-Touch workshop on Saturday, so I'm excited about that. And maybe I won't be here tomorrow because my educator job is happening. But Friday, I've got a little dog I'm working with for thunder fear. She's doing great, so maybe we'll talk about some of those techniques in case you know a dog that's got thunder, fireworks, lightning problems. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And please write stories of your dog's intelligence on this post and share it, because really our animals are so smart. They do amazing things. Thanks for joining us.